Right, good morning everybody and welcome to this meeting of the council. Just note to start off with, we will be doing a minute silence next, but just to acknowledge the passing of Her Late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, someone who I think has been a very inspirational leader for the past 7 decades. She served the Commonwealth as she's been our head of state, and I think for those who watched the funeral last night, it was a very somber and very, very good reminder of actually all that she's done for so long as she's served us all. So if with no further ado, if you'd like to be upstanding, and we'll observe a minute silence for Her Late Majesty. Right, thank you very much. And just with that, just notes that we will be having a civic memorial service this coming Saturday. It'll be at the Opera House starting at 9:30. Doors will be open from 9 a.m. and it's an opportunity for people in the community to gather and to pay their respects as we remember Her Late Majesty. Right, so as far as this meeting goes, just a warm welcome to you all, to councillors, staff, members of the public and media who might be watching the live stream as well. And we'll get things underway. So first of all, do we have any apologies? Okay, we'll go to any declarations of interest. There are none. Okay, so we move to public forum, and we've got a couple of representatives from the Whitestone Civic Trust, Clark and Michelle. So please take a seat, and just when you're ready, pop the microphone on, and I take it you are speaking to the item 5.3.
Thank you, Mayor Gary. Firstly, can I just thank Deputy Mayor Mal and Councillors Bill and Colin. Thank you for your support, and I know this will probably be the last time I see you around the table, so it's been always appreciated, so thank you. Also, firstly, I would like to thank Council on behalf of the trustees for our loan over the years. As you'll know, we've done a lot with that money, and we would ask that our loan be extended. And I'm hoping we can have a quick discussion on how that may be possible. What else can I say? The Whitestone Civic Trust, I'm sure everyone knows, how do you measure economic growth with the trust? I'm sure we all know that the precinct has been a valuable asset to the town. We've been part of the whole, cultural hub of Ahuru, tourism, and I feel the historic precinct plays a big part in Ahuru and the districts, and will do in the future. Where am I going? So really, what we're asking is for an extension of our loan, and maybe some way we can work out some repayment options in the future after June 30, 2024.
Thank you. I think it would be helpful for us to know how the last couple of years have gone for the trust. It's been a challenging time for any landlords, and I'm sure you are in that boat as well. But also, it has been really great seeing some of the new arrivals into some of your buildings. So, can you just tell us a wee bit more about that? It's just because obviously, this is all about breathing new life into the buildings and having things happening, and good to understand how it has been over that time and what it's looking like now.
Yep. Well, obviously, like everybody else, the pandemic put us back a year or two, but we're looking very good. We're about 90% occupancy at the moment. We've got 2 empty spaces, which we've got strong interest in, because 2 of our longest serving tenants, Stuart Catto, the wool buyer, and the Willits Furniture, have both vacated now. So we've got some good spaces available. We've got a great range of new tenants that have come on board. Our rentals, we've increased our rental intake up to about 350,000 per annum a year plus GST. We've got it's mentioned about our market rentals, where we feel the tenants are paying what they can afford to pay. And so things are looking good in the precinct, and we're excited about the season coming up. There's lots of talk about road closure and all sorts of things coming up. We've got new tenants. Well, you'll be aware of Craftwork Brewery has been very successful. The Criterion's just opened 2 weeks ago. So that's going to be fantastic for the precinct. We've got ageless antidotes, and a new lady, Donna Kaiser, who's got a large following. She does yoga and different things like that. As you'll know, we've got Pilates. So the trust, what I'm saying is the trust, we've moved on. It's a whole new era, we feel, for the precinct. And we look forward to support from the council. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Sure, you have anything to add?
All I would say is that my role as treasurer and administrator in the precinct, I've just ensured that any new tenants that have been signed up are also covering all the overhead costs that the trust used to pay for, like insurance, all the fire regulations, ground rent, etc. So that we are no longer, helping these people. We're actually trying to create a viable business model for the future so that we can look at repaying this loan. Also, market rent reviews are now put into in the cloud property software program that I've instigated. So we are trying to streamline our business, be a bit more proactive, so that we are getting that money in, so that we can then repay this loan to the council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both very much. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Wolfstein.
Yeah, thank you, Clarky, for your kind comments earlier on, and thanks, Michelle, for your comments. Just a question on the letter from the Pacific Trust to Council. In the very last line, you talk about we anticipate a business plan to be completed within the month, but there's no date on this letter. I just wondered when that business plan has been completed and when it might come to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Colin. We're working we've had a workshop. We're working on that at the moment. Obviously, we need to know where we're going forward financially to work on this business plan. So, you know, a decision on the loan is really important, as you all know. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Oh, sorry. I was going to respond. Is it the chicken or the egg? Which comes first, Graham? Indeed.
Thank you for your work in this area. Just want to know, looking to our recommendations, and we've got the extending the loan term to the 30th of June 2024, and then talks of fully repaying it at the due date. What's your, like, obviously preempting the business case somewhat, but do you see 2024 date being a realistic repayment date, or is that kind of what we hope to have fall out of the actual business plan, and that there may be a longer term? I'm just sort of thinking about how we word the recommendations.
I think that we wouldn't be able to pay the loan off fully by 2024. It just wouldn't happen. But I think with the instigation of a new business model and perhaps a bit more structure around payments, with COVID, etc., as you can see in the notes here, we hadn't paid off any of the principal since 2019. So it's sort of, we have dropped the ball a wee bit. We've had COVID to deal with. You can hold on to the excuse for as long as you like, but I think from now moving forward, we would really put a budget in place to try and knock this off, keeping in mind that we do want to continue to try and restore the buildings and keep them up to a standard so that they are looking like an attraction in Oamaru. So yes, I would say that it would be unrealistic that we would be able to pay it off by 2024.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, no, thank you very much for coming in. We've got a couple of items I want to get through. If you are wanting to stay on, I'd bring that item forward to be the first of the decision reports, but yeah, up to you. So do you want to stay? Okay, right. So yeah, anyway, thank you very much, and grab a seat in the other seats there, and we'll get on to that very shortly. So councillors, I'm going to direct you to item 4.1, recommendations from the Wahimo Community Board. And this is around the playground fencing. Councillor Thompson, do you have anything to comment on as far as this project goes?
Only that it's been in the pipeline for some time. The level of pricing for these sorts of jobs is absolutely horrendous, and we started on the first quote at 79,000. So 35 sounds slightly more palatable, and it's something that we simply have to do. We can't have a unfenced playground next to State Highway 1 and a waterway.
Yes, certainly a bit of a drop off into that waterway. Councillor Holding and then Councillor Hopkins.
Jim, you might be able to answer. I had a question. Saying here there's an extra $5,000, you could actually have the pole fencing the whole way around versus the pallet fence. Would it not almost be more cost effective to do the whole pole fencing? You're going to have better lines of sight for security. I mean, it's probably a bit more graffiti proof, and I imagine the metal lasts a bit longer than pale fencing. So why would you consider the extra 5,000? Or not really?
The reason that we've opted for the paling fence down the side is that we can actually make use of some of the existing fence that's there as a cost saving, and bearing in mind that there is still another probably 140 metres on the other side of the bridge that in time we will have to deal with, and so the paling fence would continue on with that.
Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, just a question, and Jim may be able to answer this as well. The notes say board members agreed that this project was very expensive. And then the options on page 8 The one that is recommended is 35,000, but to fence the entire length of 100 metres in wooden paling type fencing plus traffic management would cost approximately 20. So where's the $15,000 benefit?
No, there's actually two separate pieces. The pool type fencing is adjacent to the main road. The other 100 metres that we're talking about is down the length of the waterway.
So that's additional. So that's additional, is that what you're saying?
No, the option one that the community board recommended is the use of, for want of a better term, idiot-proof pool fencing against the main road, and then round the corner. Then from there on to the bridge would be the addition of palings to the existing fence.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
I think, yeah, option 2 and option 3 of them being done separately. I think there's cost savings to have them done at the same time rather than separately with things like the traffic management. So I think you've got the options of one or the other of them, but they're saying if we group them together it's 35,000 rather than 60,000.
Okay, someone happy to move? Councillor Thompson and seconded Deputy Mayor Tavendale. Any further discussion? Okay, put it. Those in favour say aye. And against? That's carried. Okay, moving on to the next report, which is the recommendations from the Ahuru Community Board on the community-led development plan. Welcome any comments from Councillor King or Wolfstein as buddy councillors for Ahuru.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly prepared to move the recommendation. This is a group that actually is doing something for themselves. They've gone out, found the funding to start off, and they've done the playground part already. And I mean, there's some plans here that are a little bit hard to read, but you know, they're really doing something for their own patch. And I think, you know, why wouldn't you support them? And I'm perfectly happy to do so.
Okay, so moved, and Councillor Wolfstein, you're happy to second and speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Cooch. I'm happy to second, and also just to add to the, it doesn't say on the page here, but the Currell boat ramp upgrade, that's only a very small part of the cost. There's, I think, 40,000 was received from Meridian Energy, electricity to, and also Waimaiti District Council paid 7,800. So because that boat ramp's used by a lot of people from both sides of the river and outside of the area, it's just a cost sharing around, and so Meridian's paid the major costs. So I think it's, you know, I'm very happy to second the resolutions and in particular pay that cost for the boat ramp.
Okay, so we're just doing 4.2.1. So I'll take your notice of seconding other part of the report. Yeah, I absolutely concur with what Councillor King said. That the Untitled community has been very proactive. They've got the special funding from Department of Internal Affairs. They're really leading the development, and for us to come in and support is certainly it's a nice place to be when you've got a proactive community. So I'm going to put 4.2.1, which is about the development plan. So yeah, he's seconded both. We just don't have a mover for the second one yet. So I'm going to put it, those in favour, please say aye. And against, that is carried. And on 4.2.2, you can actually move that one, Councillor Wolfstein, if you like, and Councillor King is seconding that.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Cooch. Yeah, I'm happy to just to say the comments before I made in relation to the boat ramp. I just reinforced and happy to move that resolution, that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor King.
Yeah, just also supporting what's there now just isn't suitable. And so this is a really good improvement. And I think we're getting off pretty lightly. I think it's good that we do it.
Yeah, which just reminded me that I was going to look at potentially sharing the cost a wee bit wider, because it's not going to be just the people of Ahuru that use that boat ramp. There's going to be the wider community from around Websackie, but also on the north side of the river. Obviously, they're putting in half the share, and so there's a contribution from them, and how they fund that, I don't know, but if we could, yeah, but if you're in agreement that this should be actually paid for slightly wider, that you know, officers work on how to fund it more broadly. It's not a large amount. It's not going to be a major impact on ratepayers generally, but it's rather than putting it onto the relatively small rate base of Ahuru. So, are you happy to?
Yep, very happy with that,
modify
Mayor Kitcher, and that was discussed at the meeting of the Ahuru Community Board. And I'm sorry, I forgot, I overlooked it. So thank you for reminding us of that. And yep, very happy to make that amendment to the recommendation.
Happy with that. So, councillors, just to be clear, so it is about just having this funded more district wide, and it may be a focus, you know, and it's, part comes from the Ahuru ward services rate, but that's some of it also is shared across the ward. It's a small amount, so I'm a wee bit, you know, quite comfortable about not having that as part of the motion, because it's not going to make a lot of difference to ratepayers generally. So if you're in agreement with that, is everyone generally happy with that? Okay, not seeing any dissension. So this will be a good project. It's obviously it's not one of our recognised boat ramps, but it's a lot of people are using it, and it's just not quite fit for purpose. So having it sorted after it's been a bit of a bugbear for quite a number of years, really, it would be really good to get this one knocked off. So any other speakers to the motion? Put it. Those in favour say aye. Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, so now we head to item 5.3. Whatever it is, I'm 5.3. The Whitestone Civic Trust loan. No, that's. Oh, sorry. Have I missed something?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Right. So this, yeah. Basically, the recommendation of council to review the delegations, and it's yeah, wasn't really for this meeting to decide whether we do. It's going to be the next council that does that. So it was a bit of a procedural thing as far as yeah, them recommending through. So, but I mean, we can receive that information and request staff include that for consideration by the next council. Councillor Hopkins, Councillor Wallstein. So it's really just yeah, there's some things that the community board recommends through to us. There's a relatively low threshold for that, so it means they consider it and then we consider it, and it's actually about empowering community boards. So it's looking at what that threshold should be and what level they should be able to make decisions at, and officers be able to get on with those things. So we're not deciding what that is today, but just that we are requesting officers to bring that back to us as part of the review of delegations for the next council. So pretty straightforward, I think. Those in favour say aye. Aye. And against? Carried. Okay, this time 5.3. So on page 42, and Mr. Hope, are you going to speak to this one?
I am, Mayor Kircher. Yeah, this is a relatively straightforward item. The reason we sort of brought it forward to a council meeting is that the open-ended nature of the loan was creating issues with the auditing of the financial statements of the trust. The auditors weren't comfortable that there wasn't certainty about this, about the loan. So, you know, quite happy to recommend the extension of the term, particularly noting the comments made in the public forum by members of the trust. In terms of the matter raised by Deputy Mayor Tavendale, I think, yeah, it would be helpful if the wording of the recommendation 2 stopped at the word at loan, and at the due date was removed from the recommendation. That would give us, I think, a bit more openness in relation to the business case. And I think, you know, once the business case is received, I think we'll probably come back to council and we'll look to redocument the whole loan, and reflecting the business case and sort of the commitment to a principal repayment program. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Again, I'm not sure whether that was working or not. The camera didn't go round, but anyway, thanks for that information. Councillor Williams.
I take it we're planning on seeing this business plan prior to June 2024, and I'm not sure exactly when that might be, even though it's going to be finished reasonably soon. Should we not be putting a date into the maybe a recommendation to make sure that we do see that within the short term rather than leaving it open-ended?
We certainly can set an expectation, I think, and because representatives are still here, have you got a timeline for the business plan?
Well, as Tom said, it's a meeting on this, so this going forward with the business plan.
Right. Okay. Yeah, look, we'll just take that as said. So yeah, basically it's understanding what this is. I think we could add to the recommendation that develops a business plan and yeah, working with council officers to get that delivered to council as soon as possible. I think if we can put some impetus on that part of it and make sure that things do come to us within a reasonable time frame. Okay.
I'm happy to move that.
Okay, so we're moving that, extends the terms of the loan and requests the Ahuru Whitestone Civic Trust develops a business plan in consultation with officers to deliver that as soon as possible. Does that sound about right, Mr. Hope? Are you happy with that?
And I think which includes a plan to fully repay the loan. I think that's still the intention stage.
Yes.
Yeah, quite happy with that.
Okay. Right, so moved Deputy Mayor Tavendale, seconded Councillor Williams. Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, just that I think that we don't want to be tying the council up at this stage. We need the business plan to actually populate the discussion and give us something to work with, because when I first read this and said at the due date, which I took as the 2024 date, I sort of thought when it comes to the Civic Trust trying to set up their life and their finances moving forward, that was going to be a bit of a death knell, and it wasn't, I don't think, the intention. So really pleased to see that this is kind of the intention moving forward. I think it's just let's all work together and yeah, look after the future of the trust. Thank you.
Councillor Kingham.
Yeah, look, I'm going to support this, but I just wonder if this is not the opportunity to signal, and I shouldn't be doing it as a departing councillor maybe, but that we just demand part of this loan, maybe even that we write some off, just signalling the importance of this group and what it does for our district. and I think we'd be assisting them in a pretty big way. It's something that I suggest gets considered.
Yeah, so the survivors post-election, take that on board. And officers definitely can take it on board. I mean, it will be a decision for the next council, and yeah, it'll be certainly a good discussion point. Councillor Wallstein.
Yeah, I just support Councillor Kingham, but just to say that the resolution number 2 as it read, you can read it two ways. I think the resolution, what's been changed clarifies, but I read it. So the business plan would be presented on the due date, 24th. So, but I think the sooner it's done, the better. It'll give certainty to both the Civic Trust and to council as to where you're going and what the demands are. So rather than, well, to want a better word, drifting at the present time is one way of describing it. So some certainty would be, I think, appreciated all round.
Okay, just speaking to it myself, and acknowledging the good work that the trust does, and it is important, and it's really good to hear that actually there's a more commercial stance being taken as far as making sure there's greater transparency and that costs are allocated in a more appropriate way, and doesn't stop some subsidization and so on happening, because you've got some really wonderful loss leaders, as we call them, in that area that absolutely help drive foot traffic, and are pretty well renowned throughout the country in some cases. So still being able to have that's really important. But I think helping you get on and do the work is great. Having some of the new tenants that you've got coming in there, I'm not sure if you mentioned Robot Man as well, but it's adding more interest in their craft work criteria, and some of these other things that are happening, really pleasing. And from what I've seen, actually better utilization of some of the spaces, and to actually gain better revenue from them. So if I thought that there wasn't some of those things happening, it would be more difficult to make this decision, but I think those will help. Do you want to reply?
Just want to support what Councillor Kingham was saying. We've beaten this around the bush, especially the sort of $500,000 loan for many years now, and I think often it's been talked about the idea of, can we basically not require you guys to pay the loan back, and then other times it's been back to the repaying loan. I think our ED strategy that we've got coming up next very much shows the importance of things like the Whitestone Civic Trust and the whole Waitaki identity. So I just hope moving forward that we do have an opportunity to find ways to support you, and maybe forgiving part of that could be something that the future council does, and hopefully that kind of discussion is part of it. But also hopefully at the end of this business plan and that discussion, you guys actually have some certainty to move forward to it with, which I think would be brilliant.
Right, and with that, we'll put the motion. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you very much for coming in today, and our people will be in touch. Item 5.1, adoption of the Websackie economic development strategy. So we want to move that? No, okay. And we welcome Mel Jones to the chamber, and hand over to Mr. Parnley.
Thank you, Your Worship. The ED strategy that you have before you this morning is the culmination of considerable work on looking at the starting points of the district's economy, but also where we might get to. The brief we gave the consultants policy who worked with us was to develop a strategy that has a really strong evidence base, but as importantly as that, engage with the businesses and other stakeholders in the district to really capture the thoughts and ideas of our residents and our businesses as to where we might get to and what the priorities are for our economy. And this was with a view to making sure that we had a ED strategy that is not just a council strategy, but one that is for the district and our businesses and other stakeholders. I think it's also worth mentioning that we co-designed this strategy with the Runaka Moiraki, who have been a good partner in that and are looking to work with us in terms of how we realise the benefits set out in the strategy. As well as looking for a fit-for-purpose strategy that would really take us forward in line with the partnership approach that we wanted to engender, we also asked the consultants to look at what were the best delivery arrangements. And so that is set out within the strategy you have before you in terms of proposals to establish an economic development agency, which, whilst being a council-controlled organisation, would actually be a partnership vehicle to engage businesses, the Runaka and other stakeholders within the delivery of the economic strategy, and recognising that we can't do all of this on our own. We need to engage with our partners and with the businesses across the district to do that. It's an ambitious strategy. It will be a stretch to deliver the ambitions in there, but it's good to set ourselves an ambition. So delivering at least 8% growth above forecast growth within the next 10 years. It will test us and our partners to achieve that, and we'll need to make sure that we find the resources to do that. We've seen through engagement since you adopted the draft that there is broad support for the strategy across businesses. They welcome the ambition that's set in there. They recognise the ideas that they've put forward within there, and that trying to deliver sustainable, inclusive growth is the right sentiment really within that strategy, so that we can have long-lasting growth that respects our environment and that we can get the maximum benefit for all the communities across the district. In agreeing the strategy, if you do that today, we need to recognise we don't have all the answers yet as to how it will be delivered, and that's not our job. That is the job of the proposed Economic Development Agency to work in collaboration with businesses and others to find the answers in terms of how, in that detailed level, as to how we can achieve the growth projected in here. But what you do have is a high-level plan that starts to look at how we put the resources in place to enable us to be successful with our partners. And in doing that, we're proposing a staged approach. So the original draft that you had before you proposed setting up an economic development agency with all the resources from day one. In looking at that, we don't have the resources at this stage, and nor is it realistic to have all those resources in place on day one. So it proposes a phased approach over 3 horizons to actually put the resources in place. So in summary, it's an ambitious strategy. It's a partnership plan to develop the economy of our district. It will need to be delivered in partnership with others. It's the culmination of a lot of work, and there's much more that we will need to do to be successful in this space and deliver the ambitions in there, including engaging government and its agencies to support us in delivering this. I just wanted to end by saying thank you to all those that are involved. So the members of governance who have supported this process, the Runaka Polis businesses, of course Mel, who really has worked hard to get this before you today.
Thank you very much. And I certainly appreciate a lot of those comments. And the fact is, we were looking at how we actually achieve this, but in a way that we can manage from a resource and financial point of view, and still get the economic gains. And so staging it is, the right solution, I believe. Do also note this is a major change, and so it is a big decision we're making today, but it's not a decision that can't be reversed by the next council. I think that's an important thing to note. But what it is doing, looking at something that we've all been involved with for the last 10 months, I think, to get it to this point that, basically we feel we're in a position to sign off on it and hand it over to the next council. So I think that part is very appropriate. There's a whole lot of process that has to happen around the annual plan and around discussions with potential partners and other stakeholders in setting this up and talking with Tourism Waitakere and so forth, as is noted. So, yeah, no, I just add those comments in there, hopefully to help inform a little bit more, and particularly for members of the public who think, might be concerned that we're making a major decision that is going to be binding on the next council. But it does give officers a bit of direction now to get working with things. Okay, any questions? Councillor Williams.
There's no doubt that we all want the best and, the brightest future for Waitakere, but I do have concerns about committing to this at this time when we're undergoing huge transformation and there's local government reform going on. We're not 100% certain of what we're going to look like at the end of this, and we're not certain what, what our end game is going to look like. So I'm wondering, why, is there any negatives? And obviously we might be delaying some potential positives by not committing to this at this time. But if we were delay this slightly, this huge decision, what possible negatives could we be creating by doing that, by revisiting this once we actually have a more clearer picture of how we're going to look at the end?
So I think, a decision to delay could be, putting in place a considerable delay, because the new council, may take a time to get up to speed on this. But I would say, this isn't the final decision on this. This will keep coming back to council. There'll be stages in this. If you give the green light to this today, we'll need to go away and discuss with partners some of the more detail that we need to come back. And indeed, the commitment is there under recommendation 3 that we come back to the new council. So this is green light. If you agree today to get to, to the next stage, and it sets the direction that we need. I think, as you recognise, if we delay, then that's a delay in the benefits. But I think we need to also recognise that, the business community in particular and other stakeholders have been heavily engaged in this, that they're, very supportive of this and they want to see it happen. And, I think it could be part of the legacy of this council to, hand, what is a well thought through strategy onto the next council to then look at and continue to discuss with businesses, how we realise the benefits that are projected in there.
Councillor Thompson.
I philosophically am totally committed to this. I do have some concerns around getting the private sector to buy in to this, because if they're expecting us to do it for them, it's not going to be successful. It's got to be a partnership. But I think we do need to commit today, because this is a very similar situation to planting trees. Anyone that grows trees will tell you that the best time to plant a tree was last year. And if we procrastinate and don't start the process, we're not going to move forward for our community.
Councillor Hopkins.
Well, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, one of the things you do when you plant trees is exactly how quickly you expect them to grow, what they might deliver at any given time, when you can harvest them and so forth. Well,
Yeah,
no one else knows.
A point of order has been raised. So if you just let me roll on that, thanks. Councillor, I'd like Councillor Thompson to not ask a question. I was giving Councillor Hopkins a wee bit of leeway on the basis of that. But yeah, we really, if we're getting into the full debate, we need to have the motion in front of us. So
We'll ask a question in that case. Is either Mel or Alex concerned that there are no, if you like, KPIs in here? If we treated the strategy as a person, we might say that in the first 24 months, we would expect it to deliver assistance and funding or other encouragement to three buildings, three companies say that would in turn create 10 new jobs between them or something like that. I know there's a reference to the fact.
And the question?
Well, the question is, do Mel and Alex believe that KPIs like that, which essentially, if you like, hold the strategy's feet to the fire, would be a benefit?
Thank you.
So I think in answer to that, yes, they will be in time, but I think you need to agree the strategy first. And then the next stage is then we agree the detailed implementation plan when we know what the resources are we've got that have been committed to that. I don't think we're at that stage yet. We gradually get into the more detail, but part of that is, the Economic Development Agency, if we set that up, if that's the route you go, needs to commit to some KPIs to this council and to the other stakeholders. There's some damn big KPIs in there at the moment for the 10 years, but they need to be broken down into some more granular detail and annualized in terms of what we expect to see in terms of growth of the economy, support for the different sectors that are targeted in there, and some milestones in terms of advancing the programs.
Councillor Wallstein.
Thank you, Mayor Kircher. Well, Alice just touched on the question I was going to ask. Just to say, first of all, I'm very pleased to see recommendations to number 2 and number 3. There's still work to be done. And I was going to ask the timeline, wondering whether perhaps recommendation 3 should include some timeline details. Is my question. I know it is covered later in the report, but it's not covered in the recommendations. So should there be some timelines included in recommendation number 3?
We could, but I think it'd be speculative at the moment because I think we need to try and get a brief together as to what it is we're trying to do there and scale it, and that will determine how long it would take to come back to next council. You can set a timeline in there. We will endeavour to work towards it, but we haven't actually sized what the job is or put the brief together yet.
Councillor Williams.
And just looking at recommendation 3, it talks about us having formal reports come back to us, but I can't see anywhere in here that it gives us a chance to potentially change direction. What might happen if along the way we're not happy at Horizon 1, at the end of Horizon 1, once we're starting to see a little bit? I know that this is a long-term vision and it would be short-sighted to have a knee-jerk reaction at the end of Horizon 1, but at the same time, it's not. I feel like we've got to have written into this that we have the option to, should it not be going the way that we expect it to be going at that point. Is that possible?
So we're proposing to set up the EDA as a CCO, and I think it'd be held to account in similar ways in terms of, there'd be letters of expectation that are setting, what this council requires of that CCO, and we've been doing that with the existing CCOs, that they'd be required to bring forward reports saying how they were going to deliver on that letter of expectation in terms of their statement of intent. There'd be regular meetings with the council where, you'd be scrutinising their progress and holding them to account on that. But ultimately, as a CCO, whilst we're seeing this as a partnership vehicle, and I'd recommend you discuss it with partners, if it's not delivering for you or the district as a council, you have the right to take action on that if it's not delivering.
Okay, any further questions? Someone happy to move something? Councillor Tavendale.
I'm happy to move the recommendations as they stand.
Okay, and I'll second those. So discussion on the motion, Councillor Percival.
Yeah, there's good value in a lot of the content, changes that are well overdue and make sound operational sense. On the other hand, a lot of the strategy is based on hypothetical scenarios, huge funding requirements, creation of levels of operation and administration that will only grow and therefore require more funding. The document in its present form does not sit well with me. As the strategy stands, if it was my money, I would not be investing, therefore I will not be supporting at this time.
Thank you. Any other speakers there? Councillor Halalali.
Thank you. I'm supportive of the recommendations as they stand. I think just in terms of a couple of examples is with my other hat, I work directly with EDAs from other districts. And because we don't actually have one set up, we miss out as a district in terms of other business opportunities that are here. And I can tell over the last 3 years, we've lost millions of dollars in terms of government funding directly from MB because we don't actually have something set up here. Also in terms of the people development arm of this is really crucial in terms of the type of employment that we provide in our district, and community groups are having to work with employers directly on their own in isolation unless they have back office support here to put a structure in place to help support a lot of the migrant workers that are coming into the district. So from my perspective, this is really crucial. It's quite important. We lag in terms of our progression compared to other districts as well. And if we don't take this opportunity, we will continue to lag as a district. So that's from my perspective. I'm supportive of this as it stands.
Thank you. And just for my 2 cents, we spend a lot of money on economic development in its different guises, and some of it is well directed and gives good return. Alps to Ocean Cycle Trail would be an example of that, but some of it not so much. And we don't really see anything tangible coming out of that. It's not that it's not helping, perhaps, but there's no real way to measure that. What we've got in front of us is a plan to actually help direct and guide what happens and helps the focus. And it's something that we've needed for I think a considerable period of time. It's putting in one place and giving responsibility to one organisation to get on and work with others to actually implement a strategy that's going to benefit the wider district. We're not focusing on just basically helping the big companies get bigger and so on. This is actually about making sure that there's good growth right across our economy and our community, and that we have a focus on lifting average wages and making sure that actually rather than have a trickle down economy, that we've actually got something that is more deliberate about helping those who are at the coalface and are working in the businesses, etc. There's some really good positive things there. The people development, as Councillor Halalali mentioned, the slightly different focus about how tourism will be. Take on point Councillor Percival's comments, though. You can have these economic development agencies set up, and too much of their time gets diverted onto actually just helping to keep the machine going, having to do, have several people dedicated to just finding the funding to keep the organisation going. So it's about how we make sure that that doesn't happen. Who do we work with that's going to help fund the organisation, and how do we help them to be as efficient and effective as possible as they get on with improving our economy in different ways. So I'm supportive. I think it puts a plan to something that has been planless up to now. Councillor Williams.
I don't doubt that we need an EDA, but there are a whole lot of examples of EDAs out there. And basically the way I'm viewing this is that we're going for the biggest and most brilliant EDA that we could possibly set up for our little area. So maybe it has been a long 10 months or a short 10 months, depending on how you look at it, since we first started having this discussion about setting this up. But it's quite a huge decision, and I'm not fully satisfied that we've got in front of us the best version of an EDA for our particular area. And to me, it does feel like it's been quite rushed. in the sense that it is such a huge decision, and I just want, not feeling completely confident that we've got the right setup. So I won't be supporting this today.
Just suggest a further part to the motion. So in a 3B perhaps, requests officers to build in threshold dates to those updates. So if the mover is happy with that, because I think that addresses what Councillor Williams is talking about, that making sure that as we get an update, there's also the ability to say, hey, look, we're not happy with the direction this is going and we need to stop or change. Some of that is implied, I think, anyway, but it's just being, again, more explicit around making sure that that is in there. So, did you get that wording?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Councillor Tavendale, okay, we'll come back to you then. Councillor Kingham and then Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, look, I'm going to support this as a signal for starting something. I think it's still going to be teased out quite a bit yet, and it will be. But I'm really, we're going further than just tourism. We're going into to have a closer look at our rural farming businesses, if you like, but right across the board. And I mean, if it'll deliver what it's kind of promising, well, why wouldn't we be doing it? So let's just make a start.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, look, I suppose Kelly's crystallised my thinking to some extent as well. I mean, if it will deliver, yes, but the difficulty is that it's hard to see in its existing form that it can absolutely be guaranteed to deliver the 135,000 jobs. The 1,350 jobs, and all the 70 to 146 million dollars of GDP growth over the next 10 years. I still think, I mean, it's a question of the extent to which we put things, the order of priority. And the more I listen and think about Kelly's points, the more I think some of these, and I know you've added something, but I believe we should have, over the previous 10 years, through the consultancy and others, panel beat some very clear and specific annual or semi-annual KPIs and delivery assessment tools that would help us and the community to see the benefit of a very large financial spend. I'm not sure we're quite ready to do this yet. I think there's still some work to be done on the strategy before we adopt it. So I'm genuinely uncertain as to how I'll vote at the moment.
Well, I note we've had 3 speakers for and 3 against, and we're really up against time at the moment. So I'm just going to go to Councillor Tavendale for a right reply.
Thank you. We've got to put people in to actually get this started. Like we're talking about, we're not there yet, but it takes time to actually build what this looks like. We need an EDA. I do believe that. I believe that we've had a piecemeal approach up till now, and things like, tourism, Waitaki, we haven't always been happy with the way things have been carried out, or we've been told that we've just got to focus on tourism. We need to look wider. As Councillor Halalele sort of mentioned, we've got a lot of issues within the people space, and actually being able to grow our workforce with the lack of housing, with the lack of ability for people to develop when it comes to things like educational opportunities locally. And all that stuff's never been looked at as a whole. So the first time we've actually got a strategy in front of us where we've gone and got the data that underpins it all, and we've actually got a big holistic plan. And it's taken we've got there in an incredibly fast timeframes, and I get that it has been quick, but we set those timeframes, and so we've got to support the work that's been done. This is the first step, and I think the need for KPIs or measurements and things along the way is a definite, and I think there's no one disagrees with that. but I think we've got to build that and work out what that looks like. When we talk about things like, you know, guaranteed to deliver 1,350 jobs, you know, that is looking at the whole thing. If we did the whole lot now, we're doing a stepped approach, and that's because we're trying to do it in a lot more meaningful sort of way and actually giving us time to, you know, collect the funding so it's not sitting on ratepayers' shoulders. But this is a really great opportunity to partnership with a lot of different people and to work together. Timing as well, things like Tourism Waitakere. To be fair, we've had them sitting on a string waiting for a decision for a long time now, and that's got to be pretty demoralizing. Whether people support Tourism Waitakere, don't support it or whatever, it doesn't actually matter. There's people here and there's jobs here, and some certainty is actually really needed. This is today about building the platform to work out what this whole thing looks like. But for me, the people development part of this and what we can do in our own community across the board, rather than just the usual ED ones, which is just you know, something, a bit of cream on the top. We're actually looking at this right from the ground up, and I think it's incredibly powerful, and I've been pretty proud to be part of it, and I really hope that we back it as a council, because, you know, no matter where you feel it's sitting, I think the intention behind this, and as the first step, you know, well, we're still building what it looks like. This is powerful, and we've done a really good job here, and thanks Mel and the team for their job work behind it. It has been pretty incredible. So I think it would be really cool to actually see councillors get in behind the intent of all this.
Thank you. So I'm going to put the whole thing, including the extra part of the motion at the end. Those in favour, say aye. Those against? That's carried. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Mel, for your ongoing work on this, and Mr. Palmley, thank you. Okay, councillors, we're going to break now for lunch. When we get back, we've got one or two items more than I'd like to be trying to get through in this afternoon, but we'll see how we go on those. So back here, 1 o'clock. Thank you. So what are we, page 52? Okay, welcome back, everybody, as we reconvene this council meeting, and welcome representatives from Corridale Water Management Limited. So new chairman Gary McLeod, good to see you, Gary, Peter Stackhouse, Bryce Burnett, and Roger Fox. So welcome along. So we're going to hear from you first, and then we'll get into the debate of the item itself.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We didn't really think we'd speak. We've done quite a bit of work with your guys, and we agree with what's being put forward, and we think we can get everything done as required going forward. We've taken on a consultant, Ericon Limited, to help us with our water safety plans, health and safety plans, and other work that's required. And working with Josh has been a good experience, so we're happy with that. Thank you.
Great, short and sweet. So, all right, councillors, opportunity to ask any questions of around the report or of the representatives here today. No questions? Councillor Wallstein? Yeah.
Yeah, just on what was it, page 58, was it paragraph 3 of the draft agreement responsibilities? Just there, Gary, and was it, yeah, just you got page 3 of that, 1, 2, 3, 5th paragraph down, states in the draft documents, a rural agricultural water supply is one that serves the bulk of the water, 35% of the water used for households. There is no population size limit in the draft. So does that give you some freedom to maybe transfer, well, perhaps not the whole Corridale water, but individual water schemes into community ownership? Yeah. Is that an option long term?
It is an option we've considered, and it is one we're looking at. There's probably 2 of the schemes at the moment, which would be Cowra Hill and Windsor, have small enough populations to do that, to proceed with that. The other 2 schemes, I think, under the new rules, would be able to do that as well. That's something we'll be discussing over the next few months, just to see where we go with that. Yeah.
If I might just through you, Mr. Chair, to add to that. So yes, the Corridale Water Management Limited supplies could be transferred over. The larger supplies also could if a referendum was held and enough of the population that is serviced by those supplies committed to having that transfer take place. The rural agricultural water supplies is actually more to do with the treatment of those supplies. The rural agricultural water supplies enables point of use treatment to be used rather than a centralised treatment system that treats all of the water that's supplied. So it means that only the drinking water is actually needed to be treated rather than all of the supplies. So it does decrease some of the upfront capital costs of implementing those treatment solutions, but it does slightly increase the operational and maintenance costs as there's more compliance that needs to occur with a greater number of individual treatment units.
Okay, Councillor Hopkins.
Look, I was just going to say in response to Gary's opening comment that was my question. Are you happy? And you've said you are. So that's answered the question. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Kingan.
Well, I'm prepared to move the recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's timely.
Yeah, so I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Yep.
Yeah, look, this is sort of the next stage.
Oh, but your microphone. All right.
Yeah, look, this is sort of taking things to the next stage. And so you guys have had these workshops along with a good bit of help from consultant. And I mean, I don't mind admitting that the consultant was Neil Jorgensen, who knows our guys and knows you guys. And he's drawn up something here which, you know, you'll have to work to now because you've got real responsibilities. But at least they're documented and you know exactly what they are. At the workshop, I said, and I'll repeat it now for councillors, that, you know, you guys run quite a big business, and so you've got quite a responsibility. And you may get to the time when you've got to go to a stage further than a country committee, if you like, that and even to the point of running a business and maybe even paying yourselves. I think you've got to run it as a business if you're going to keep it going for a long period of time. So you can't rely on, I don't think you can really rely on volunteers forever. If you can, good for you. But in the meantime, you've actually got that responsibility. So all the best, Gary, with your leadership, because that's going to be quite vital for the whole thing. It's me.
Thank you, Councillor Kingan. Anyone else? Okay. Right. Got moved and seconded then. If there's no further speakers, put it. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And against? That's carried. Thank you very much for coming in, guys. Yeah, you're a bit of spare time there.
No, thank you very much for that. We appreciate that. We appreciate that from you guys, and we've appreciated the work with Josh as well. It's been a great help, and we'll continue to work with him over the coming months, and we've got quite a good relationship, I believe. So that should be good. Yeah, thank you.
It's great. Thank you very much. Right, councillors, we're now on to item. We'll go back to item 5.2. No, all good. Yeah, no, thank you. Right, so don't know whether we got Eric, you know, yeah, he's online, so just connecting still, so that's fine. So Mr. van der Speck, just onto the TIF project budget. So if you'd like to speak to that, thanks.
He's just going to speak, no video.
Yep.
Yep, sorry, just turning my microphone
Yep,
on.
good as going.
So essentially, council over the last 2 years has applied to the Tourism Infrastructure Fund for funding for various projects. This paper is essentially an update as to where we are at with those projects. I just want to note that the projects associated with Duntroon and our toilets are on track. However, we do have some anomalies, I guess, with a couple of the other projects. Those are the Ahuru Blue Penguin Colony Car Park, where we have some funding from the Tourism Infrastructure Fund. However, council's funding towards that work is in year 2025 of the LDP, and we would like to bring that funding forward so that we can complete that work within the timeframes that are required by MB. The other is the Elephant Rocks project. When we applied to MB for the funding for that project, we were of the understanding with those landowners at Elephant Rocks that they were happy for us to proceed on that basis and to do a car park and other tourism infrastructure on land that is essentially part of theirs as part of Elephant Rocks. The ownership of that land has subsequently changed hands, and the landowners would like to proceed on their own with improvements to that site and would prefer to do that without council's support at this stage. And the last one is our application for funding for improvements around Bushy Beach for car parking, some fences and other tourist improvements there. We were largely relying on our council's existing project for a walking track between Cape Wonbrow and Bushy Beach as council's contribution to leverage that funding from MB. And part of that is the necessary land we need to acquire or purchase from the landowner. MB has decided that isn't won't take that into account as far as our local share, and therefore we have a shortfall as far as our project budget for Bushy Beach, and we are proposing that the surplus funds or the funds that were no longer required for Elephant Rocks get used or reallocated towards that project, or 150,000 of that $200,000 budget.
Thank you. Okay, so has anyone got any questions on this? Councillor Hopkins and then Councillor Kingan.
Yeah, look, Eric, I'm just trying to get my head around the nature and extent of the improvements at Bushy Beach. I mean, if you look at the dead end road, and yes, it's slightly wider at its coastal end, I can't see where we're going to get enough additional space, quite apart from anything else, to significantly extend that car park. So is it possible for us to see a plan of some sort as regards that?
We don't have a plan for that site yet, but the intention is again to work with that landowner who would be working with for the track from Cape Wombat to Bushy Beach to work with them to acquire, I guess, the necessary land for us to do the car parking there.
Okay, Councillor Kingan and then Wallstein. Yep.
Eric, could you help me page 39, Duntrin Township, the toilets, the jobs to be completed by November 2023. Is that a mistake? I hope it might be 2022.
You are correct. Sorry, that is a mistake. It should be 2022. My apologies.
It's a big job. Councillor Wallstein.
Yeah, thanks for your report, Eric. Just a couple of questions. One, the money from Elephant Rocks, which you want to transfer to Bushy Beach, is MB happy with that? And second question is, with the new owners at Elephant Rocks, is the work that they intend to carry out, is it similar in any way to what the council was intended to do there?
To answer your first question, we do not need MB's approval to transfer the funds. Their only interest is that council has its local contribution. We will need to notify them that we are unable to continue with the Elephant Rocks project, and effectively we won't be signing a contract with them for the issue of the funding for that. But for the Bushy Beach, as long as we have our local share, we are able to enter into that contract with MB. Sorry, what was the second question?
Was in relation to Elephant Rocks, Eric, the work that the new owners are going to carry out, is it similar in any way to what council had planned to do at that site?
We don't have any plans of what they intend to do. We understand it will include car parking, but we don't know anything beyond that point.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing else? So we have someone happy to move? Councillor Wallstein and Deputy Mayor Tavendale. To me, this makes sense. It's rationalising some of the situations we're in with some of these projects. It's a problem when you apply for things with a particular aspects in mind, but then those things change, and we've just got to be flexible on that. I think the important thing is that there's some really good projects in here still, and the government contribution towards those is important and certainly going to help them get done. Councillor Kingan.
Elephant Rocks, I'm just a little concerned, but I'm hopeful that it's going to end up well, because what we've got there now is dreadful, and there's a real need for improvement, and I'm just hoping that if they, well, I'm sure if they're going to do something, they'll realise themselves where its downfalls are. So here's hoping.
Anyone else want to speak to it? Okay, those in favour, please say aye. And against, and that is carried. Okay, moving on to item 5.4, the Wahimo water supply level of service improvement on page 48. And we'll just go to who wants to speak on that one. Oh, there you are. Sorry. If you could address this particular report, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Kircher. So this report here is for upgrading the Wahimo water supply. So as part of the long-term plan, there was budget allocated to do an upgrade program of $6.15 million in the Wahimo area. That project was pulled forward in the enhanced work program and recast at $6.8 million. the project scope included the provision for firefighting capacity. So currently at Palmerston, it's not a gazetted fire area, and the main size in lots of the streets doesn't allow for firefighting. So part of this upgrade was to also cater for that. So obviously that's a service level increase for the Palmerston zone. So what we've done is come back to you to ask for agreement that we improve the level of service and allow for firefighting in the Palmerston town. That's me.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pacey? Okay. Councillor Thompson, you want to move this one?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Your Worship, that
Someone's, Jim, can you take your microphone off?
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Percival. Councillor Hopkins speaking to the
Well,
motion.
look, some of us may have received emails making the point, and I do want to clarify with Marty and with Alex. As I understand it, projects that are in our annual or long-term plans will be captured and adopted and implemented by the new entities. Is it absolutely necessary to spend this money now, or can we hold off? I know that essentially we're just bringing interest repayments forward maybe a couple of years, loan funding interest repayments, but it doesn't have to have a fire service. According to the report here, it makes the point that although it has a bigger population than Otamatata and Omarama, it doesn't have to have this. So why are we absolutely determined to do it now when we might be able to achieve the same outcome simply by listing it in the annual or long-term plan?
Okay, not sure who wants to respond. Mr. Palmer.
I can have a first go. It's like, it's up to council whether it wants to do it now. It has been committed to by the government that the projects in council's long-term plans will carry forward to the new water entities. What hasn't been committed to is what timeframe they'll then deliver them in. I think, we can expect that they will review all those programs and consider what time frame suits them as an entity based on priorities across the entire entity region, not just Waitakere region. And I think, we've heard a call from the community via the community board that they want this work to be done. Ultimately, it's up to the council whether they decide to listen to the community's wishes or, keep them as it is plans within the current long-term plan.
Thank you.
Councillor Wallstein.
Yeah, just a couple of questions, probably Marty to answer, please. In the top of first paragraph from page 50, the report states that this upgrade program was identified as a priority. So just my question is why? I know we know about the firefighting, and the second question was, with the Wahimo water upgrade, there'll be a increase in, I guess, water pressure in the whole system. There'll be perhaps more water demand. What's the security of the water supply for Wahimo? Will it put any pressure on the existing water supplies available?
Yeah, through Mayor Kurcha. Regarding priority, it is, we spend a lot of money doing lots of repairs in Palmerston town and also in the rural area as well. There'll be some upgrades that will occur in the rural parts of the Wahimo water supply as well. So the main reasons apart from that is around water quality. So we have a lot of small diameter cast iron and galv water mains which have corrosion on the inside, and whenever we tend to do a repair, it stirs up the sediment in those water mains, and we get lots of dirty water complaints. It's by far our worst area from a quality perspective. So even though we're treating the water to a very high standard, it goes into a very old network, in a very rundown network, and the water quality as it gets delivered to consumers is not as good as it should be. What was the other question?
Well, thanks. The first answer, Marty, that makes total sense. It was just the capacity of the Wahimo or the Palmerston water supply system. How much spare capacity is there in it for future growth, or even just to supply and increase demand as a result of bigger pipes being put in place?
Yeah, through the chair again. That is a good question. It is one of our more stretched areas. We'll be negotiating with Targa Regional Council. We do get close to our consent limits in summertime at high demand areas. So what we're going to look to do is attempt to negotiate some changes to our consent. We're actively working on that. I don't believe that the water main size will increase that demand at all. People still use the same amount of water. They might sprinkle their gardens a bit more, yeah, fair enough. But we can put some other demand measures in place to address that. It is something we're actively working on.
Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, very quick and simple question. If we said yes, have we got the workforce or the contractors to do it? Or is it going to be another carry forward that we're unable to complete because we can't get the workforce to deliver the result?
Yes, through the chair, good question. We believe that the workforce will be available for a contract of this size. We delivered our tranche projects successfully, spent all the government money. Part of that was in Palmerston, replacing water mains. So the full work program may not be complete by July 2024, but it'll be substantially complete. Very comfortable with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the other thing to notice is, this is the kind of work that has, and Marty can correct me, a limited amount of design component to it. So it's far easier to get underway. And I think therefore a lot more attractive to the contracting market.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure whether the microphone's working properly or not. But, anyway, we heard you. Okay, do we have any other questions? Someone like to move the recommendation? Oh, sorry. That was, yes. So I'll take that back. So is there anyone else wanting to speak to it? Just one thing I'd like to say, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about these projects. All of our projects are things that we are scheduling to do, often because we have to do them to meet regulatory compliance and timeframes. Bringing forward some of them is not going to add additional debt to the council than what would be happening anyway. And this is part of the problem, and this is why we actually support the case for change from the current situation. We don't support the proposed model for change, but we do support change because councils like ours are going to have to go into more debt to carry out the works, and it will use up the debt capacity that we have, and it will be, as already happening elsewhere. That debt capacity will be used up on water projects, and there's other things that councils need to be doing and should be doing, and they won't have the capacity. So there are some major issues around that, but this is money that we would be needing to spend. We would be loan funding it because that's the most appropriate mechanism, and it's not changing that part of it. So we shall see where things go. We're keeping an eye on the political currents, because if there is a change of government next year, National has said they will repeal Three Water Reform, but they have also said they will replace it. So if that was to happen, they need to replace it with something that actually takes into account affordability and debt limits for councils. And we're by no means the worst. We're actually pretty well off compared to some. Some councils have already reached that debt ceiling or are very, very close to it. So that's the reality of it. So anyway, hopefully that's helpful. So with that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour say aye. Those against? That's carried. Now we go to 5.6, ratification of the Building Act form submission. Okay, so it moves Councillor Hopkins, seconded Mayor Tavendale. Mr. Cook, would you like to speak to it?
With your permission, Mr. Chair, I'd speak from here rather than come to the front because
Well, I'm not sure if it's working because the camera hasn't moved or anything. Would you like to come over to the spare seat over here, if you don't mind? Because I've really been waiting for this all day, really. I mean, this is going to be the highlight, and I want to make sure everyone gets to share. And words, no, this is actually one of those important things that we do, and you know, it is important that the system works for districts like ours. So I am looking forward to hearing what you've got to say on the submission.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It is a very, as you correctly say, it is a very important submission. The indications are that it could be far-reaching when MB finally produce their sort of recommendations, which is due next year. Potentially implications for the BCA, and the BCA in Waitakere is particularly high performing, and not something that we'd want to lose from the district. Happy to take any questions, but the submission has already gone, so there's very little opportunity to change anything at this stage. But we will get another chance to provide feedback when the formal consultation opens next year.
Yeah, thank you. And just note we've had the opportunity to feed into this, and this is simply ratifying where we got to on that. So, any comments, Councillor Hopkins?
Well, just speaking to it, I think it's an excellent submission. I congratulate Roger and Victoria. Josh, I'm sorry I heaped praise upon you over lunchtime, but indeed it is Victoria to whom the credit should go. It's an excellent analysis, and if the government was smart, they'd adopt it in total.
Well, I'm pretty sure the staff will appreciate that unbridled compliment. So, okay, no other comment? Oh, sorry, Councillor Wallstein.
Just one very quick comment, Mayor Kutcher. Roger, you referred to a BCA, which we know what that is, but just in case anybody online is watching and doesn't know what you referred to in our jargon, BCA, do you want to just clarify what that was so people at large will understand?
My apologies. Yes, I've just recently been on a course where they should say it said you cut out the acronyms and the jargon because people won't necessarily understand that the BCA is the Building Consent Authority, which Waitakere District is as part of the Territorial Authority.
And again, something that is actually important to have locally, because it means that, you know, if we've got an effective authority, that buildings are being built properly, and that our building industry can get on and without too many delays to their programs. So, right, I think I've got to put it. So those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? It's carried. That brings our meeting to an end. We've already done the public excluded over lunchtime. Some minutes and a couple of items there. So thanks very much, everyone, for your contributions today. I didn't note earlier, I was supposed to have a mayor's report in this agenda due to some IT frustrations that disappeared. So there will be one in the meeting in 2 weeks' time on the 4th of October, where there'll be a very complete report by then, I'm sure. So we'll see how we go. But thank you very much, everybody, and we'll declare the meeting closed.